Alright guys, so we're going to be doing another video talking about the Modern Warfare controversy right now going on with the campaign. Everyone's articles, these different journalists have their own different takes as to what should happen to Modern Warfare, whether or not they should censor the game, they should flat out not make the game, they should take out certain parts of the game, whether it's morally correct to make this game. Maybe Call of Duty is making this campaign too realistic and they're depicting war too accurate for people. Journalists are making all these weird different cases against this game, and they're subtly hinting at different things that this game should not do for this year. Obviously this game has already been developed, so at this point, what could Infinity Ward do? They just have to look at these reactions and look and see if it could actually impact their motives here. I mean, some of the guys here talk about the only reason they're actually doing this campaign this way, so realistic and so insane, with the terrorists and shooting civilians and all of these crazy war scenes that they're depicting, is for a shock factor and to create controversy. Like, they want the controversy, and that would in turn get them more sales, and also very important for Activision, increase their stocks because their stocks have been low. So that's their case here. We're going to look at an article here also talking about a bunch of this stuff, and I also want to go through a bunch of your guys' comments from my last video talking about the situation, because you guys have a lot of good takes as to what is going on here with this game and what they should do and how they should attack this controversy, because honestly, it's not much of a controversy in our eyes. I mean, we understand why Call of Duty is doing this. We want Call of Duty to make a good, realistic campaign that actually depicts war in a realistic manner. We're sort of tired of this aimless shooting around, especially the past couple of Call of Duties. Black Ops 4 didn't even have a campaign, and all of the jetpack in Call of Duties really didn't have that good of a campaign. So now we're finally getting something, and obviously the real controversy is really only in the eyes of the journalists. There are only probably a couple of people, probably a couple of journalists. Everyone else doesn't think this is a controversy here. We all understand Call of Duty, but these couple of journalists here apparently think it's a huge deal. So let's look at an article, and again, we'll go through your comments. So Call of Duty Modern Warfare teaser sparks controversy over hyper realism. So here's the thing. Now, I don't know if this guy is saying it's sparking controversy because he saw a bunch of the other articles, but it wasn't a controversy until these journalists made these articles. You know what I mean? They just sort of flat out came out and said, oh, look at this controversy, look at how violent this game is. It wasn't a controversy to begin with, but they sort of led with that, and that's how it happened. So it's a bit weird how they go through here. So here's one of the first parts of the article, harking back to the days of No Russian. So fans of the franchise will no doubt be aware of how it harkens back to the days of Modern Warfare 2, and that installment players were encouraged to take part in an infamous campaign known as No Russian that involved gunning down civilians at a Moscow airport. Not surprisingly, some countries completely removed the campaign from the final release. Now, I'm going to end that here because No Russian, again, that was a huge deal back within MW2, controversy back then, and that definitely led, as you guys saw here, to countries removing the campaign from this game. So obviously we only have 2 missions revealed so far, but I could definitely see it. I don't want this to happen, but I could definitely see in those same countries that got rid of the campaign because of No Russian, if the rest of the Modern Warfare campaign is anything like No Russian or anything like these 2 missions that they showcased at the reveal, they're definitely going to remove this campaign. Hopefully not ban it. Hopefully not. I mean, I guess that is censoring. Removing the campaign pretty much is censoring. So censorship, especially in those countries that did it back then, will probably happen again, unfortunately. But let's go through here a bunch of the different cases. This is actually from a director at Infinity Ward, and this is his case as to why they're making it so realistic. So if we whitewash it, if we backpedal from it, if we show a world where the heroes fight the terrorists and win, you will never see the impact on the average person, the collateral damage, or the morally gray situations that soldiers themselves have to face. Now, this is a huge point that they want to talk about here, and they want to emphasize a part of making this campaign. It's not as simple as going in, attacking, raiding some base, shooting all these, unnamed soldiers and winning. That's not war. Sometimes war, bad things happen. You bomb a town and this happens, you accidentally kill mostly civilians. I mean, there are real life cases where they bomb cities and they kill 95% civilians and they kill 5% of who they're actually trying to kill. And that sucks. That shouldn't happen, but that's just what happens in war sometimes, and they're trying to depict that, and I think that is a good thing for people to see and understand, and it's not necessarily some sort of weird political thing, or it's not to be, glorifying killing civilians, but it's just to show that this happens in real life. So it goes on to say that objective certainly rings true for many fans. They've come to expect a more realistic view of war and conflict in general. Trouble is that heaps a lot of responsibility and direction in the hands of Minkoff, one of the design directors, who hasn't experienced battle firsthand. So no doubt they've done their research, but you can't substitute secondhand accounts for real world experience. So I do agree with him. Obviously, he did not serve in battle in across the seas. He wasn't there in these battles that they're describing in this game. So he doesn't exactly know how it feels, but obviously, how does anyone know how it exactly feels? Do you think every single movie director went out to war to actually, and served as a soldier? It's not like, all these war games, all these Call of Duty games, Battlefield games, any video game based on war, any movie based on war, any sort of media piece that is based on war, I bet you a lot of the stuff that's made, they don't have at least one soldier there pretty much telling everyone, oh, this is how exactly it was. And now, if that was the case, that would be cool, because honestly, if you want to get information on how it felt to be in war, you would get it from someone that served across the seas, in the Middle East, wherever they're doing their scene, wherever they're doing their campaign. Obviously, in this case, that would be a good situation, but that's just not how it is. And obviously, he could still create a game, he could still make a game, and he could still make it pretty accurate, just going to research and asking soldiers and looking online and seeing what they've said about war and what happens. I mean, there's information on that. It's not like you're not gonna fabricate it. You're gonna get it from somewhere. They probably did their research on this campaign, and they know what it's like. So I don't think just because Infinity Ward didn't go out and serve doesn't mean they shouldn't be able to make this game about war in this case. Now he goes on in the article to talk about the stocks and pretty much saying here that maybe Activision believes that, ramping up the shock factor for Modern Warfare will actually help them, relive their past glory. And he's pretty much saying, and honestly, MW2 was a great game, not because of no Russian, it's just because it was a game that everyone loved. It was simplistic, but it was also fun, it was clean, it was smooth, it had great weapons, great kill streaks, and he's pretty much saying, oh, MW2, one of the legends of all time, so now Modern Warfare wants to get back to those days to get Activision stock back up and to get players back in the game, so the only way to do it is to increase the shock factor. But that's not necessarily the case here. It's, obviously they just want to create a good game, and MW2 wasn't that good because of no Russian, it was good because of everything else, and no Russian was an interesting part of it, but it's not like people bought MW2 for no Russian, so it's a bit weird there that he talks about that at the end. Now, there's actually a comment from this article that actually goes and pretty much describes exactly what I was talking about earlier. How about most war movies that have directors that have never been in combat? Same goes for that, yet they are amazing war movies. Flawed argument. Now, not only are there amazing war movies, think about all of those documentaries as well, and some of these fictitious war movies really do capture the true essence of war and how brutal it is and how emotional it could be and how important it is to make, accurate decisions on what's going on. I mean, the whole Saving Private Ryan thing, and, there's a lot of different movies where it's obviously depicting some really bad stuff of war, but they're allowed to be made. There's no controversy. There's no one freaking out over it. I think this is just a weird situation because it's a video game, and just, video game journalists have a different take on stuff, and these guys just apparently have a problem with this war being not really so realistic. Obviously, they have a problem with it being realistic, but they also have a problem with what exactly they're showing in this realism, because showing war that just shows, killing soldiers, unnamed soldiers that you don't really know, but they're enemy soldiers, and you know, that's what Call of Duty has been all the time. But now it's a bit different. They're adding in the sort of, you know, civilian aspect and sort of the you know, unintended casualties of war, where, you know, people might be shot that shouldn't be shot, and, you know, different stuff happening that shouldn't happen. These, you know, secret raids that may actually injure civilians and stuff. Obviously, this stuff is realistic, but I guess it is a bit different to what we normally see in these war games, Call of Duty games, and pretty much any other shooter that is in some sort of war setting. So I understand maybe why they're talking about this, but there really is no difference between this and movies and pretty much any other war media that, you know, has been produced. So I don't know. This article, again, not as bad as the others, but it still goes through a bunch of the different stuff that doesn't really make sense, and the arguments that just, I don't know, aren't really that good against this game. So some of the comments here, again, talking about what was going on here. We have from Garrett: journalists, it shouldn't depict war realistically. Me, isn't a COD game always supposed to depict war as realistically as possible? And that's obviously what we always want. We want a campaign, a Call of Duty campaign, to depict war as realistically as possible, and usually we're mad when they fail to do that. And if you think about it, you would want these video game developers to depict war as realistically as possible. If they just made up their own war, they honestly, I would see a controversy with that, because then you're just, you know, making war seem, you know, sort of simple and easy and not even that bad. And maybe a campaign might show war as like this easy thing that, you know, shouldn't really be looked at as emotional, or, you know, you have to really pay attention to what you're doing, and stuff, you know, bad stuff may happen, and may just glorify war as this fun shooting thing where you're going around bombing cities and you don't really know why you're bombing cities. I mean, if that was the case, then I could see a controversy, but they're actually trying to show us how realistic and how important these decisions are, and, you know, that there may be unintended consequences as to, you know, accidentally killing civilians. So that's one here. We have another comment as well, that's Stoner: well, if you don't want to see it, don't play the game, plain and simple. So that's actually very true, and I do like that one as well. That's the final point I'm going to leave you guys with this video, because this video is pretty long at this point. But, you know, if you don't want to play this game, don't play it. I think that's the main thing here. This game should be allowed to be made, and you should be able to play this game if you want to play it. If people think this is, you know, sort of offensive or too sensitive, or they think, you know, oh, this shouldn't be seen, or at the end of the day, they have a right to make this game, and you have a right to not play it, and that's as simple as that. So honestly, even if it is controversial, even if it was even more controversial and they added some crazy stuff within this game that I don't even know what to say, but if they added some insane stuff that even I thought would be crazy controversial, maybe I wouldn't even play, you know what I would do? I would just not play it. I wouldn't go on the internet and say this game should be banned, this game should not be made, they should censor this game. I wouldn't do that. So that's the point I'm trying to make here. Obviously, maybe it is controversial, maybe it is, you know, really realistic, but it should be made if you want to make a good war game. And if Call of Duty actually wants to make a decent game and depict war as realistically as possible, this is what they should do. So again, leave your comments below on what you think about this situation here. Comment below campaign if you watched the whole video, and that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys did enjoy, again, like I said, hopefully nothing happens to this game. I think we should be good for the most part. The people in the other countries, I don't know, because other countries are a bit harsh on censorship and stuff like that. I think the US is pretty good for the most part, but we'll see what happens. And yeah, see you guys later.